Don't you just wish that you could have one of those reset buttons on your desk? Remember like the old commercials with Staples? And anywhere you needed it, you can just in the moment just boom, press it. Because life gets messy, right? Life throws us curveballs all the time. And you're just trying to be a good parent, a good partner, a good professional, and good Lord, you're just trying to be a good human being. But we spend so much time human doing over human being that it can really wreak havoc on our soul. But here's the deal. That reset button is actually available to you at any time because it's not a tangible thing. It's a physical thing. It's an internal thing. And you can psychologically reset it anytime you need. And trust me, I hit it often. And I'm reminded of that because those of you who know me know that I work in havening techniques, which is a psychosensory somatic approach that lets you reset your nervous system in minutes. You can certainly find out more about havening and my happy hours and my certifications by checking out the information in a link in this podcast. But what do you know about yourself when it comes to hitting that reset button? What do you need to be in the be mode over the go, go, go mode? Because it can really make us think twice if we're just sitting in our own stuff. So Cameo Elyse Braun, she definitely reached that point. And it's hard not to when your calling card includes entrepreneur, musician, former professional bodybuilder, and let's throw in the mix mom and wife and human just trying to start over, especially when you're in sobriety. So Cameo, I love that you're here. I love that you're sharing your story so openly, so beautifully, and also really sharing that book of yours that you've been working on for quite some time called Boom, the Reset Button. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have quite a story of your own, and I can only really scratch the surface when I'm introducing my guests. But when I saw that you had this book called The Reset Button, I thought, how is this something that's just come out? Because really, we all think about that from time to time. Where is that reset button? Where can I just stop the day and start over? What brought you to write the book and just have that awareness that something had to change?
Gosh, a laundry list of things, but I'll keep it short because it's all very detailed in the book. But about 5 years ago, COVID time, I found myself with a little bit more time, a lot more curiosity, and the ability to kind of reflect on where I had been on my journey over the last specifically 5 years. I was 5 years into my sobriety at that time, 5 years into basically what we did, hit the reset button. We moved our family from Ohio to Florida in a matter of a month, kind of on a whim, because we had met some major challenges in our marriage and in our life at that time and decided to start anew. And so 5 years ago when I started writing the book, that was when the idea of like the reset button was born, because I realized, oh my gosh, that's essentially what we did. And that's what I do so many times over and over and over again, that this has to be something simple for people to feel connected to and available for them, for themselves.
Yeah. And you have really had quite a history and a journey on your own right. I mean, being a professional bodybuilder, I mean, that takes such attention to detail, and it's so strict in performance and creating the body and just living doing that. Were you doing that before you actually had kids?
No. So I had 2 kids, and about 2 years after our son was born, he's our youngest, I found myself needing something. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was very grateful for that. But I felt like I needed something to kind of reclaim who I was. And at that time, I started running. I had never been a distance runner, but I set a lofty goal to run a half marathon. And I decided to start training in that way. Then I joined a gym, hired a personal trainer, and someone just said, hey, you look like you could do bodybuilding. Have you ever done that? And I thought, I haven't, but you mentioned it, so I think I'll look into it. And at that point, it was welcomed because in my entire adolescence, I had kind of been teased for being manly. I have a muscular build. And so for someone to present it to me in a way that was positive was very enticing. So I started bodybuilding. or training to become a bodybuilder.
What was that like for you? Because we live in this society where, and I just recently had a conversation like this about really how we have been perceived as women and what we're allowed to say and what's okay to say to somebody. But when you say that you were perceived as manly, how did that impact you?
Well, it definitely put a crack in the foundation of what my self-worth was and what my own self-image was and where it came from. These young men that teased me in high school, they were just teenagers too. They didn't know any better. It wasn't malicious. They were just, I used to joke that they just didn't have as big of muscles as me, so they were jealous. But, looking back, I can see that it was just them being teenage boys, not to give them an excuse. But, things happen. We weren't having conversations around empowering women. We weren't having conversations around embracing all body types. This was back in the late 90s and early 2000s when you were either a very thin Abercrombie model or you weren't. I didn't look like all of the other girls who were thin. I was thick. I was curvy. I was made fun of. And so that made me feel like something was wrong with me internally, deeply rooted in my self-esteem.
And so, where was the turning point for you? Or you were an athlete when you were younger?
Yeah, I played all of the sports in high school. I was a competitive cheerleader, so I did it all. And there were some coaches who were very complimentary of a female being muscular and their physique in that way. That kind of helped me feel more confident in that when I was younger. But after becoming a mom, going to college, partying a lot, becoming a mom, I had kind of given up on the athletic side of myself for a while until, like I said, after our son was 2, I decided I need to kind of get back to that for my mental health, for my physical health, to have something for me. And it felt like home, really. And so again, to have somebody tell me hey, you look like you could be really successful in a way that allowed me to embrace my body type and my masculine build, as I guess I had been teased about, it was really appealing.
You don't do that at all anymore, do you?
No, I obtained my professional status pretty quickly, and I did do one professional bodybuilding show. Bodybuilding was a huge part of my life pre-reset button. Yeah. We moved to Florida. I took some time off. I had a major shoulder injury, and we had a lot of transition. We were digging out of a lot of debt. We were rebuilding our marriage. Bodybuilding didn't fit at that time. But when it was able to come back into my life in a healthy way, I did compete as a professional one time. And at that time, it was for me. It was very fulfilling. But then I decided it just wasn't something that I wanted to dedicate so much of my life and time to, especially while our kids were young, and we were building a business. It was too much. It couldn't be as much of a priority for me as it needed to be, and I was okay with that.
And obviously, it's at a point where where we need to do something for ourselves. But when it comes to family and healing wounds that have been hurt or injured, it's kind of a wake-up call in a way. Where are my priorities? And I think you even mentioned that. You even said, "Whose life am I living?" I remember that being a quote that you had mentioned in one of your shares. How has the reset button? You have a step process. How did you create that process, and how do you follow it in your own life?
Great question. I took some time to really understand me first. And the first step in the reset button, I call them the 3 R's, the 3R framework, is to reflect. And that was something I wasn't super great at. I've always been someone who is go, go, go. What's next? What's the next goal? How do we get there? And up until the point where my life kind of imploded is probably the best word. I hadn't taken a lot of time to be very introspective. And so I started therapy. We started marriage counseling, and I began to reflect upon what choices have I made all the way up to this point that have been truly in alignment with who I want to be. What choices have I made because of some past hurt, some past example? What choices have been because I think I should be doing things and that makes me successful, or that makes me, the best version of who society thinks I am? And then actually embracing the curiosity behind that and exploring who I was. And that's why reflect is the first step, because I think that before you can make any change or take any action, it's important to really dig deep and get honest with yourself about where you're coming from in the first place and what's formed where you're coming from. Next is reset. And reset is permission. It is permission to say, okay, now that I have a deeper understanding of who I am, how I feel, why I behave in the way that I do or don't, what am I going to do about it? And what changes am I going to make in my life that maybe I didn't feel like were available to me for a while, so that I can be living on my own terms and not everyone else's. Mm-hmm. So the reset is my favorite part, because it's the part where you get to say, I'm taking back my power and I'm going to do things differently. And differently is going to look like what I want differently to look like.
It's the button.
That's right. That's the button.
It'd be cool. And I'm sure they have this out there, but even having a button that you can create for yourself and just hit it every time just to start the day over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It's like one of those little ding bells. We meditate a lot, mm-hmm. and there's always the chime or whatever that kind of clicks you into gear. It's like, that's what a reset button is.
Whatever it is for
Recenters you.
Yes, absolutely. And what's the third one?
Reinvent. Mm. So this is the moment when you have understood yourself. You've decided, I want change. I want to do things differently. And then you start reaping the benefit that I call it the reset ripple effect in the book, that then starts to impact other areas of your life that maybe you didn't even know would be impacted by going through that process in the first place.
I want to go back to something you said before, and you mentioned the word should. And we live in this like shoulda, woulda, coulda world, right? And it can also lead to a lot of regret, which I guess could be another R that you don't want to face, right?
Yep.
Because the shoulds, when we live by the shoulds, we're really halting ourselves from living our true essence, you know?
That's right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, now I'm a mom of a 20-year-old young woman who I see so much of myself in, and she's experiencing some of the things that I now understand I did, where it's, I should be doing this, I should be this far along. All of my friends are doing this, so I'm not, and that means that I'm carrying around a lot of shame for not behaving in the way that I'm supposed to. And so for me personally, when I see her, I'm like, okay, it's easy to recognize in yourself, in your daughter, but now recognize it in yourself, even to this day. Like, what are you doing because you feel like you're supposed to? Mm. Is it signing up for, every snack thing for your kids' team, snack day? All of those shoulds cram up what you actually want to be doing with your time. Mm. And carrying around the shame of like, well, if I don't do them, then I have to feel guilty. I have to feel like I'm not living up to everyone else's expectations. And then what does that mean that I am? Who does that mean that I am? And I'm just done with that. Yeah. And I just want everyone else to be done with that too, because we have these unrealistic expectations lining up with what everyone else's goals or thoughts are. And then we lose ourselves. Mm. And then we wonder, why am I frustrated? Why am I upset? Why do I not feel fulfilled in my life? Why aren't I doing the things that I love to do?
Yeah, we definitely live in a world of comparison, especially when you have this gadget with you all the time. And look, I think we're guilty of it too. I mean, even as a Gen Xer, as I am, we can get pulled into this world. We're going on there to look at one thing. It could be puppies and kitties. And all of a sudden we're like, wow, I'm not even there yet, or I'm not doing that, or I'm not that thing. And comparison can be very dangerous. And for some reason, that beautiful brain of ours likes to go to the negative, keeps us alive and safe. But it tends to put the blame game back on ourselves, Yep. How did you, and I love that you brought up being a mom of a daughter too, because if anything, being a mom of one of each, especially, you want your daughter to be empowered and strong and like truly embody what a woman should be. And then you want the son to be a strong container for that kind of woman, to be a support system, right? Mm-hmm. But what is something you wish you knew that at your daughter's age that you know now?
Gosh, that all we have is right now, and that worrying about what's going to happen 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now, is a complete waste of time, because we cause so much. To your point, we think so many negative things. We tend to veer to the negative side of things that we inhibit our ability to move forward before we even get started. So I would tell myself, or I would tell my daughter, the things you're worried about today or that are bothering you, and my son and everyone else, take a few deep breaths, do something for yourself to recharge yourself. And then if it's still bothering you, let's explore it a little bit further. I wish I had that for me when I was 20.
Girl, I wish that too. But it's good that we realize these things now, but it's even a challenge now. There are moments where we catch ourselves, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was just thinking, is that like, it's easy to say and it sounds so simple. Mm-hmm. The doing part is the difficult part because we get stuck.
Yeah.
And so the reset button framework it's not a one-time do-over. It's a constantly evolving, living, breathing thing. It's the ability to say, okay, well, just because this worked or didn't work for this period of time doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Reset and try something new. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back to what you already thought you were, what you were already doing.
Absolutely love that. So I want to touch on a topic in just a second, but first I just want to remind folks that Cameo Elyse Braun is here. She has her beautiful book called The Reset Button. And this is a book you should definitely pick up. If you have those moments, which I'm sure we all do, grab the book. It's going to be in the notes of this podcast. You can also get in touch with her as well. I'll have all that information. If this conversation in any way moves, and inspires you, if it resonates with you, if you think somebody else would find it valuable, pay it forward, pass it along. That's what it's all about. I mean, being in this world is about sharing stories and being around other storytellers, because we all have one. Let me know what you think about this episode, because it's definitely a good one. I do want to dive into the area that we haven't touched yet, which is your journey to sobriety. That's a big part of your story. You're very open about it. Can we talk about that a little bit?
That gives me chills just thinking about how big of a part of my story it is. And as I was writing the book, I knew that I was going to have a part in the book, maybe a chapter that turned into a section about what I call toxic coping strategies in the book, which alcohol was for me. But what I didn't know was that when I finished the book, and I reread it a million times, of course, that it was woven so much throughout who I was, what I thought of myself, what I had been exposed to, directly and indirectly from people close to me and society, and the messages that it sent about alcohol for me in particular. And the sobriety decision came along with what I reference as dumping out the jar in the book. When we moved to Florida, we took the concept from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Good book.
Where he uses the jar analysis or the jar analogy as a time management tool. The big rocks are the most important things. The pebbles are the things that need to get done, but they're not essential. And the sand are the things that take up your time. And I love that. And I love that as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. But then I thought, gosh, it's deeper than that. It's about meaningfulness. And I need to make sure that I have my jar full of the most meaningful rocks first, before it's full of sand and things that mean nothing to me. Because when we moved to Florida, my jar was full of sand and all of the big rocks were laying on the outside. And I'm like, well, no wonder I find myself in this position. So we call it dumping out the jar. And one of the rocks that was taking up a lot of space in my jar and didn't belong there was drinking, partying, what that meant for me in my spare time, and what it meant for me when I had, time for myself, what I was choosing to do, the aftermath of those choices, and also what it was doing for me and my spirit, and in, how I felt about myself. It didn't belong. And so my husband actually stopped drinking before I did. In the book, I go into the details of that night. It was kind of a catastrophe. And when he stopped drinking, I was actually a little bit reluctant. I thought, I'm not the one with the problem. You're the one with the problem. And I went on to, be by his side and adopt, kind of that style of living anyway, because we were rebuilding our marriage and doing a lot of things intentionally. And then I found myself chugging a glass of wine, literally a glass of wine, chugging it like a shot. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not a problem per se, but maybe it's not the type of relationship with alcohol that I want to have. And then that put me in the reflection spiral of like, it's taking up a lot of space and it's not benefiting me. In fact, I'm not working with it very well. It doesn't belong. So then I followed suit with stopping drinking. And it's been 10 years, 10 and a half.
Congratulations. I mean, it's hard
Thanks.
to say congratulations because it's always a journey, but that's a great milestone. And
thank
every
you.
day is like the first day, they say, right? So
That's right.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed back then that 10 years later I would be, saying I've been alcohol free for 10 years. And I definitely wouldn't have anticipated all of the things over the last decade that have happened literally as a result of that one choice, because that one choice had a ripple effect on all of the other choices that I made.
Curious about your book again. Have your kids read your book?
My daughter has. Our son is 15, so he's not really super interested in mom's book.
Right.
But there were some conversations that were difficult that we had to have with both of them about mom and dad and some of the mistakes that we've made and some of the behaviors that we have had over the years that are not so wonderful, because it's important for them to know, one, that we're human. I feel like I came a long way when I realized that my parents are also both just humans, even though they're my parents and they're on this pedestal. They're just people trying to figure out life. So we wanted our kids to be involved in that. And also we didn't want them to be, shocked. Like, why didn't you tell us about this? They're old enough to be respected in that way, to have a conversation about the challenging things we've been through.
Bringing up parenting is something I want to touch on too, because when we think about our ancestral background, and a big thing that we hear talked about a lot now is generational trauma, ancestral trauma. What would be something you would say to your kids now to put one foot in front of the other? Like, how would you remind them to reset themselves in a way they would understand?
Yeah, great question. We try to explain to them that they're the ones that get to decide how their energy is spent. So yes, there are things that you are a part of and there are things that you must do, but you get to decide whether you want to be full energy toward that, or if it's the wrong vibe, if you need to pull back, whether that's a person or an activity. Our daughter's in the workforce now. She's in the service industry. She does hair. And I just had this conversation with her this morning. She was like, sometimes people aren't very nice. And I feel like I know I'm doing a service for them and they're paying me for that, but they shouldn't be able to talk to me that way. And I said, you're exactly right. You have to kind of take your energy back and shield yourself from that. And so in a way that they understand, it's just empowering them to know that though they may be involved in situations and people, places, and things, that they ultimately are the ones that do get to decide who gets their energy and who doesn't.
Yeah, I think it goes back to agency, but also healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Very well said.
Right?
Yep,
absolutely.
absolutely.
It really does. I mean, we truly have control over our own thoughts, moods, behaviors, and habits, how we act in this world. But also we have a choice that we don't have to accept the gift that you're giving me if it happens to be a negative.
That's right. Absolutely.
And I think that's something that we're really starting to learn more in this world, that we don't have to accept the gift. Not every gift is positive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier that you and your husband, what's your husband's name?
Greg,
that both of you and Greg do meditate. Yeah?
Yes.
And
Yep.
so mindfulness and mindful practices are very important to you both. What is your choice? What do you do?
Well, we are huge Tara Brach fans. And
Love
actually,
Tara.
yeah. So we just jump on Spotify and we grab a guided meditation from Tara most often. I'm also a huge Dan Harris fan. But we were first introduced to meditation from a friend. And, I think like many people, you have this misperception of what it is and what it means. And as we learned about the different ways of meditating and the different, options that you have, and got rid of this preconceived notion that it's hokey or some kind of weird thing you have to sit and ohm yourself through, that, it really became personal. And so, but our go-to is definitely Tara. I love a guided meditation, just a body scan or a meta meditation that helps you expand, your compassion from yourself first and most importantly, but then out into the world. And
I love that you mentioned her. But I remember finding her for the first time when I went to stay at an ashram after a relationship was not working out. And I felt like I was really had a warm blanket. It's her voice, first of
I
all.
think so, yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that voice. There are certain people that just you feel like they're just embracing you.
Yep.
She's definitely one of them, and she's. I love knowing that she's still doing it. There's so many people out there now in this world, especially in the digital age, that things can get very muddy. You
Yep.
know, so I love that you mentioned her again because it reminds me. I'm like, I should go back and listen to some Tara Brach.
Yeah,
'cause
she's lovely.
amazing, and
She just
Dan
helps-
obviously is great too.
Yeah, she helps you. Dan made it normal. I feel like
Yes.
reading his book and listening to him talk about how he stumbled upon meditation made me feel like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense
Yeah.
for me. But Tara just has this way of like grounding you through her words that I always feel better. Even when I don't have time, that's actually when I need to meditate the most, is when I don't have the time, and it always recenters me. And I'm so happy that we decided to embark on that journey because it's also been a huge part of rediscovering and reconnecting with who we are as individuals and then also who we are as partners. So
Yeah. I imagine, did that help? Just the connection, doing the meditation together? Or just
Absolutely.
listening to somebody together?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you come away each time feeling this lift of, the weight lifted off of whatever was heavy in that moment. And when you can share in that moment, even if you don't talk about it or have specifics about how you were impacted, it's a very intimate thing. So I'm grateful that we do that together because we share that when we can.
Yeah. I love doing that with my partner as well. I mean, it's just wonderful to sit in the moment and then you have a conversation about it, and I'll ask him questions and he'll ask me questions, and it can become part of a new dialogue that helps you help each other heal, because what they say is like you're really mirroring each other in many ways,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
I
beautiful.
agree. Yep.
Yeah. So just a reminder, my friends, The Reset Button, beautiful book written by Cameo Elyse Braun, who joins us on Holistically Speaking. And I'm going to put it on the notes of this podcast so that you can grab it at any time, anywhere. Have you done an audio version of it yet? I love asking people this.
Not yet, but it's coming up. I hope to have
yeah.
that completed by the end of the fall and
Yeah.
available in winter.
Because it's so wonderful to hear people in their own voices. I
Agreed.
say this all the time. Like, just when we're hearing other people's stories, especially in the prescriptive and the teaching memoirs and memoirs, like, I don't want to hear somebody else reading your story.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't want someone else telling my story. There's just
No.
a certain way that it connects when it's genuine. And this book is part memoir, part manual, and it's meant to meet people really where they are. And some of my stories may not resonate with everyone, but my hope is that, and the feedback that I'm getting is that many people, although the details are different, really connect with the overarching message of feeling lost and overwhelmed and frustrated and shame from some of the things that they've done that maybe they aren't proud of, and that it's okay
Yeah.
to break free from that and move forward. And I feel like with regard to the audiobook, some of those stories, like, they need to come from me. People need to hear that from me as if I'm their girlfriend telling them, because it definitely wouldn't maybe make as much sense or feel as real if someone else was reading my words.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So the Reset Button, my friends, I'll have that in the Holistically Speaking book nook. That's something that we recently launched on this podcast. It's a library where you can find the best of the best, and Cameo's being one of them. So you can find it there as well. So I want to play a little game with you that I do with my guests. I've been doing this for 5 years now. It's called the Brain Candy game. And basically this is a word association game. And it's words that you might have said that I've been writing down. So if you've noticed me looking down, it's because I'm writing down whatever Cameo says. A word or two that you might say and come back with the first word that comes to mind. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, amazing. Let's see where your beautiful brain is. Here we go. This is 2 words, but bodybuilding,
Past.
masculine,
Positive.
sobriety.
Best thing I've ever done.
Awesome. I'll give that to you.
Thank you.
Parenting,
Hard.
should,
No, thank you.
shame,
Goodbye.
reinvent,
Exciting.
reflect.
Gosh, there's so much I could say about the word reflect, but I would say embrace. Like a big hug to yourself is what reflection feels like to me.
Well, you had me at hug, so all good there. Reset.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. And then the last one I want to throw in there, because you shared this with me before we actually hit record, but what comes to mind when you hear the word cameo?
Unique.
Amen to that. You definitely are. I love it. I love that name.
Thank you.
It's really beautiful. On that note, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with Holistically Speaking listeners and those who also watch on YouTube?
Well, I'm just grateful to be here. And as I mentioned, I started writing this book for myself, and now it has turned into something that is not for me anymore. It's for everyone else. And I hope that through this book, people see themselves and they give themselves the permission to say, I can hit the reset button at any time. I don't have to move from Ohio to Florida. I can make small, meaningful changes in my everyday life that propel me into the life that I really believe I deserve. And you do deserve it. You have to believe that to begin with. So I hope your listeners find some inspiration in this episode and then also in the book that sets them free from anything they're hanging on to that they don't need to hang on to anymore.
Love it. That is 3 snaps. I love it. You do deserve it. That's like, I hung on to that when you said that, and I felt like you were talking right to me. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Loved
you're
having
welcome.
you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You deserve it. Actually, let's change the language on that. I want you to say out loud, I deserve it. I deserve it. Yeah, that feels a little different, right? Don't you ever forget that, my friend. And if you need that reset, I want you to grab Cameo's book, The Reset Button. You can find it in the Holistically Speaking Book Nook library. That's on the Holistically Speaking website. And in the notes of this podcast, I'm always going to make these things available to you so it's easy to find. You can also connect with Cameo. Everything you need is right here. And if you're looking for a reset of your nervous system, I've got you. Join me for an upcoming Havening Happy Hour, a free online event that I've been hosting now for over 5 years. It's really hard to believe, but it is so. And it's a place where you can come, you can be kind to your mind, you can hug it out with yourself, and experience the power of neuroscience and somatic healing and compassionate care with me as your guide. And if you're looking to take it a little step further and put the healing in your hands to serve others in holistic health, I have a Havening training and certification that is coming up, and there's still space to join me on that journey and find the pioneer practitioner that lives within you. Holistically Speaking is always grateful to share the music of my dear friend Lipbone Redding, who's been with me since the start, and a shout out to you for choosing this time and this space to join the conversation. And I'll leave you with this. Never underestimate your own power, your agency, and your ability to reset the moment, the day, the week, the year you choose to choose. That's the hug it out way. So on that note, never forget that I love you, I believe in you, and I'm sending hugs your way. Be well.